Hey, video 28 here. We're going to handle the views on our videos. We're going to keep it simple though. We're just going to add the views we're going to take on one thing at a time. We'll add the views, implement that, and then worry about likes or move on to something else. So we'll do a piece at a time. So first thing, add views. We've already added it to the model. Add it to our schema in our video.js in our schema. Add views, and it's going to be an int. And we'll add a mutation called add view. That's going to take a video, and it's actually a video ID. Going to take a video ID, and that's a type ID, and return a video. And here's our resolver. Root async function root video ID and the models, and we'll make a filter underscore ID as a video ID, and we'll use update $inc or increment, and we're passing that object, and that's going to be the views property, and incrementing it by 1, and then we'll just return and await of our models video find one to update with our filter and our update. We don't need the upsert. I don't even know if we really need the upsert here. I just wasn't sure. Upsert just creates the document if it's not there. So I wasn't sure if an empty array qualified and we needed upsert, but it's working. So I mean, you can test it, take it out, take the options off, and see if it works. May or may not need it. I haven't tested that, but in any event. And then our video component, and change this back to video ID. I think it should work with video ID. I was having some other problems with it, and I wasn't sure if having video ID here was the problem, having the same variable name, but I don't think that should matter. So let me just make sure it works like this. And then 13 views, 14 views. Okay, so it's working like that. So the first thing you want to do is make a new mutation here. I called mine add view mutation, and we'll use our GQL. We already have it from this query, and it's a mutation. And we'll do the variable deal, $, the variable, the type, and then the actual mutation name, add view, and video ID is the $, video ID, and I'm just returning the views, even though we're not really doing anything with this, you'll see, because I added it to our initial query. And I brought in compose, which comes from the same package as GraphQL, which is the React Apollo package. And I plan on having other mutations in here. So I named this one addView. So instead of using props.mutate, we'll use props.addView to call the function that calls this mutation. And then with compose, we've done it before. It's just a function, and you separate your queries with your items with a comma. So here's our first mutation, our first higher order wrapping, and our second higher order wrapping. All right, and then here I've made a method called handle add view. It's an async function, and all it does is call this.props.addView with the variables being the video ID from our React router props of match.params.video ID. And then in our component did mount, figured the simplest way to implement it was just every time the component's loaded, it gets counted as another view. Why not be generous with the views? I don't know if there's some criteria, only one view per user, but that doesn't really make sense because, a user views it twice, they still view the video twice. And here they don't actually have to. All they have to do is load the page. They don't have to play the video through. We didn't put any logic in to handle that. I don't think we really need to. It's just views. For likes and dislikes, we're only going to let the user have one like or dislike of the video. They can't have one of each, and they can't have multiples of each. So we're going to implement a little more logic with that. But I didn't see the harm in just adding a view every time the component's brought up. And then down here, since we added it to our initial query, I added it here. So we're getting it off the initial query. And down here, instead of having to update the store or anything like that, I figured we don't need all that extra code. We can implement some live updates when we do the likes. There's really no point to updating our cache or anything like that because the mutation's called when the component mounts anyways. And I did run into a weird thing where even though I'm returning views here after the mutation, it's still I have time I can show you. It's a strange behavior. So this is we can call this, we can say const response. And then we can console log response. Just to show you what I mean. So right now this video's got 14 views, and now it's got 16 views. Maybe it is working correctly. Let's see. $17 views. Let's check something here. We'll check our actual database. As of right now, our video has 16 views. Okay. And that's saying 17. So maybe we don't need views plus one. Now we have 17 views, and our database has 17 views. So maybe somehow, since that query is being called immediately, it's because we're getting the views off the query, not the mutation. Maybe the store is updating itself because the query and the mutation are being called at the same time. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but all we have to do is stick the views from our query in there, and we get the accurate amount of views as proof in our database. We've got 18 views, and it's saying 18 views, so everything looks good. Guess we didn't need a +1, but that's how you get your views.